This video is going to be a little bit different than most videos on my channel because this isn't a lighting breakdown and it's not a gear review. It's not a behind the scenes video. This is kind of a mindset that I think that every filmmaker could benefit from. And I don't think that it's just beneficial to your career, but I also think it helps you evolve as an artist and a creative. To me, I feel like making a film is one of those things that we all say we're going to do eventually. And as time passes us by and life kind of happens, we realize that we never get the chance to make that film. You know, we have a bunch of corporate videos or client projects that we're going out and shooting, but we actually never take the time to fulfill our true passion. And a lot of times when we're thinking about making a short film or even a feature, it's such a daunting process because we think of how perfect it needs to be, or to feel the insecurity or the inexperience that we have, and we start to psych ourselves out and we end up defeating ourselves before we ever even get started. And this single-handedly is the cause for a lot of our inaction. And right now I'm working on a short film project, and to be honest with you guys, it really couldn't have come at a worse time. If you guys have been following me on Instagram, you'll know that I recently started a filmmaking agency. I'm putting out YouTube videos weekly. I have client projects that are ongoing and I'm still doing. I'm working on the documentary course that I've been promising you guys for months. And on top of all of that, I'm starting another company. Shooting this short film project really couldn't come at a worse time. But if you guys want to hear the truth, there's never a good time to go out and make a short film. There's never going to be a perfect time where you're going to be able to sit down and have a moment to write a script or come up with an idea or have enough money to even fund the project. If you're waiting for that perfect time, it's literally never going to happen. You have to find the time and the drive and the passion within yourself to just go out and shoot this thing. And if we don't do that, if we don't force ourselves to go out and make a film, we're never going to do it. You know, a year, 2, 3 years are going to go by and this idea is going to die inside of you. And I'm not saying this because I want you guys to give me praise or pat me on the back and tell me, oh, what a good job you're doing. That's not the reason why I'm telling you guys this. I haven't taken a day off in months. I work 7 days a week, in most cases 12 to 14 hours a day, and I'm completely consumed by what I do. And while this is probably the most exciting time of my life, this is by far the most stressful, the most exhausting time of my life. But then comes that thing in the back of my head where I start to say to myself, like, okay, when is it going to be time? When am I going to have that perfect time? When am I going to actually go out and do it? So I decided that I'm going to write a project on whatever free time that I had, went into pre-production, and I just said, screw it, let's go for it. Let's start making this thing. And I'm going to break down every aspect of this filmmaking process from pre-production all the way to post-production and show you guys exactly how I'm doing it. Now, there are a million benefits to going out and shooting a short film. The first obvious benefit is that you get a portfolio piece that you're actually really proud of and that is in line with who you want to be as an artist and a filmmaker. And we all know that in order to get projects and films that we want to work on and something that we're actually passionate about, we have to show that work that's in line with what we're trying to apply for. So if you want to make horror films and you never shot a horror film, then you got to go out there and you got to shoot something that's in line with that and make sure that it's part of your portfolio piece. And if it's something that you've never done before, that's fine. But at some point, you're going to have to take that risk. You're going to have to take that jump and take that first step into making something and have that piece in your portfolio. Going out and making a short film on a low budget with limited resources, it's going to make you better in so many ways because you don't have the money to go out and spend on VFX or crazy camera equipment to get these insane shots. It's going to force you to be more creative and push your limits to what you think you can accomplish. By the way, you guys remember Daisy in my color grading video? For those of you who've seen it, she's growing up. Now she's kind of hanging out with me on the couch, which is pretty cool. And right now she is going through an exorcism. Daisy, you have anything to say? She's out, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue with the video. I always refer back to Law of the Goat when I think about a project that single-handedly made me an all-around better filmmaker. This docuseries was the first time that I set out to take a project entirely by myself as a producer and a director. And there were so many times where I failed, but in return, I learned probably more working on that project than most people learn in 4 years of film school. Of course, not knocking anybody who goes to film school. I'm just saying that through that failure and through that project of taking something on in the real world by myself, it's extremely beneficial to you. And that's why I say that there's so many different things that you can learn from YouTube or even film school. But the greatest teacher that anyone can ever get is failure. The other thing that's going to happen when you go out and you shoot a short film is that it's going to force you to get better with all of your equipment. You know, it's going to make you a better director. It's going to make you a better cinematographer. It's going to make you a better gaffer because you're constantly doing these things and you're building that repetition and that muscle memory that you need to be able to do things like the back of your hand. Those little things and those little nuances that you have with your equipment and those little fixes that you might have, like in running gun situations that, you know, at first would probably freak you out, you're going to be able to fix very quickly because you're going to run into those problems and know how to fix them just because of that repetition. And overall, it's going to give you more experience, which is going to level you up. And even with this short film that I'm making right now, I'm running into problems that I didn't even foresee being a problem, you know? And that's the thing, is that like, you don't know what you don't know. So like, as much as you plan or as much as you spend time trying to learn or watch YouTube videos, the greatest teacher is the experience, is you going out there and figuring it out. Because like I said, you don't know what you don't know. You know, I thought that I spent enough time in pre-production and planning everything out. I you know, did a really detailed shot list and storyboard, and I had such a, you know, strong vision about what I wanted to see and what I wanted to do. And of course, you know, I step on set and I'm shooting things and I'm realizing, oh wow, I did not spend anywhere near the amount of time that I actually needed in pre-production. The more time you spend in pre-production and the more time that you spend in really honing in that vision, the less time you're going to spend making mistakes, the less time you're going to spend going through hours and hours of footage or going through hours and hours of takes because you don't have everything figured out. Now, with that being said, you know, I think that it's important to give yourself and factor in that time to be able to give yourself the freedom to create and experiment. One thing that I was talking to the owner of the studio, Josh, he's been kind enough to let us film in there for free, which is a blessing. But, you know, one thing that he told me and one thing that really freed me up was he goes, hey man, you know what? Just give yourself the freedom to create. Give yourself the freedom to be an artist. That's what I want to give you. And that's what this studio is. That's another thing that we have to think of as creatives and as filmmakers is, are you giving yourself that freedom? Because it's so important. You know, I find myself so many times like I'm working on a project and I have a deadline, or like I'm renting studio time and I don't have the option to do another take. Again, it all comes down to you're never going to know unless you do it and unless you try. Those of you who've been following me for a long time now, you guys know that most of my experience comes from the documentary filmmaking world. That's been where I get most of my projects. That's what I feel very comfortable and very skilled in doing. You know, jumping into narrative is kind of a new skill for me, and it's something new that I'm learning how to do. And something as simple as just like keeping continuity between shots. You know, if you move a piece of fabric on your head, or you're not wearing the same shirt you were in another shot, or if you know, the positioning of the camera, the positioning of a subject's body or something like that can cause a huge problem in editing. Whereas, you know, in the documentary world, a lot of these things are forgiven. But in narrative, a lot of these things have to be kind of perfect. And I'm learning right now all of these little things and how much they really matter. And the thing is, guys, is that I guarantee you that you're going to run into these issues. Maybe they're not exactly my issues, maybe they're your own issues, but you're supposed to run into these things and you're supposed to fail and you're not supposed to be perfect. Don't get me wrong, we all have to strive for perfection, but don't let that be the cause of your inaction. This word filmmaker gets thrown around a lot these days, and that's the truth. Everybody's a filmmaker, anybody who picks up a camera becomes a filmmaker, but the truth is this, right? Are we actually filmmakers if we're not going out and making films? Are we actually artists if we're not going out and making things, if we're not going out and creating things? You know, the other day I saw a crazy quote, and I forgot who said it, but they said that I don't want to live in a world where AI is creating art and films and music, while human beings are the ones doing the grunt work, the labor work. And I thought about that, and I was like, what kind of sick, weird world would we live in if the art that we were consuming was all done by AI? And I don't know why that really got to me, but it made me realize that, like, yeah, you know, as human beings, we have this thing inside of us that has to come out, and it's our job as artists to give this to the world. It's our job as human beings to provide this to the world, because that is our gift that we can actually share. So the last thing that I want to leave you guys with is, don't let this go. Don't let that dream of becoming a filmmaker die inside of you. Don't get lost spending your life making corporate videos or feeding into the never-ending abyss of content creation. Get your ass up, Go make a film, because honestly, the world needs it, and so do you. I really want you guys to drop any of your thoughts in the comments. What are you guys struggling with? Is there anything in particular? You know, I talk to a lot of people about imposter syndrome. I talk to a lot of people about things that they are trying to overcome as filmmakers, and whatever hardships that you're going through. Let's create this community together, man. Drop some comments down below. Let's talk about it. I want to thank you guys so much for stopping in and hanging out. And yeah, man, I'll see you guys next week. Deuces.